Hello and welcome. I'm Sam Califer, your host for Vision, the show where we talk all about the College of Arts and Sciences as well as its faculty and students. Today I'm joined by Abigail Voller, instructor and internship coordinator in the Department of English, as well as the Humanities Camp director, which just had its inaugural session earlier this month. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for having me today.
Yes, excited to have you on and talk about all the great work you're doing. But first, I was hoping you could just introduce yourself, talk about your professional experience, and how you came to Mississippi State.
All right. So I was originally going to be a band director, and I was for a couple of years. I was a performing arts director at a local school. And then I decided that I wanted to expand my education, and so I had several recommendations to come to MSU and explore their English master's program, and so I did. And I was just welcomed into that program with just open arms and learned so much. And I wanted to stay because I love the department. Everybody in the department is so encouraging and collaborative, and so that was the kind of department that I wanted to be in. And so I started there full time in 2010, became an instructor in 2014, and have just kind of slowly taken on different projects that have it's just allowed me to try new things and explore different avenues to help students, and I've really loved it. So.
Sure, yes, and I graduated from the English department. Mm-hmm. It's a great place and so many opportunities to plug in, and so I'm glad you found your home there. And like I said, you're the director of this new program, the Humanities Camp. So can you tell me about that? What's the background on that, and how did it come to be?
So in 2019, I had a meeting with my department head and the director of composition at the time, and they started talking about Humanities Camp, and it was something that had been in discussions with the College of Arts and Sciences for a little while, and then that was when 2019 was when they decided that they wanted to move forward with it. And because I had had experience with Mississippi Governor's School teaching, I was also a scholar. They wanted to see if I would be interested in taking it on, and I absolutely was. I was very excited about it, and started planning right away. But then, of course, the pandemic hit, and so our first year was supposed to be July 2020, but obviously we had to put that on hold. And then when everything kind of just started to not clear or end, but started to become more manageable, that was when we decided to go ahead and move forward again. And so this year was the first year, and put a lot of planning into it. We had a lot of help. Had a fantastic advisory committee who just allowed me to throw ideas at them, and they would say, okay, yes, this will work. No, this is not going to work. And so they just really helped me get everything together so that way we could make it as safe a camp for the scholars as possible. So. Sure,
yeah, and it sounds so cool. I know they had so many different classes and things to do, and it's just interesting to me to hear about a summer camp focused on the humanities. Mm-hmm. You hear about sports camps or like theater camps, but why do you think it's important for young people to focus on humanities education, and how is that conducive for a summer camp experience?
Well, when you hear the word humanities, it encompasses so many different things that it's hard to put a handle on what it actually is. And so usually if you say something about the humanities to a high school student or even a college student, they just kind of shrug their shoulders and say, okay, I don't really know what that is. And I don't blame them because it encompasses so many different things. And so, by providing this avenue, to explore the humanities, it not only gives them an idea of what the humanities are, but it gives them a chance to explore the humanities in the everyday and see how, oftentimes it feels like it's very separated from STEM when actually you can't have STEM without the humanities and vice versa. So this is a really great opportunity for young people to be exposed to the humanities, to see how it works in their everyday lives, and also to see that there are some different avenues for potential college paths, future career paths. There's a reason why arts and sciences has the ampersand between arts and sciences to show how these work together. And so it's a really great opportunity for them to explore it, and especially in this time period when we've been so isolated because of the pandemic, also further isolated because of social media. It's a really great opportunity for them to come together and learn how to work together. So.
Yeah, I think the humanities, it does make for a great summer camp because it's so interdisciplinary. There's so many different things to study, which is kind of what you think about with summer camp. You go to different activities throughout the day, you find new things that you like, you focus on the things that you already like, kind of dip your toes in the water and see what you enjoy, and to do that right before they go to college, maybe they found a new subject they want to study. So just so cool. I think that's a great idea. And like I said earlier, you just had the first session earlier this month. You're probably still recovering from that a little bit. But how did that go? What's some feedback you got, and what's something that everyone seemed to really focus and gravitate towards?
Okay. So one of the great things about how this camp ran is that all of the professors gave their time. So they offered their time in order to guide these scholars, and we consistently referred to them as scholars because we didn't want them to just think of it as camp, but as an actual avenue for intellectual exploration. And so so the scholars had the opportunity not just to sit through a lecture, but to have active learning opportunities. So for example, they went to the archaeology curation facility and they actually got to process artifacts.
Wow.
And they had so much fun with that. They also got to go on a walking tour of downtown where they got to visit Glow and the community theater and the Idea Shop and Dunkington Startwell Strong. And they were able to see how a community works together and inspires each other and collaborates with each other. Because one of the overarching projects that the scholars had to work on over the week was in small groups, they had to identify a pain point of Mississippi, something that they see as an issue or, a problem that needs to be solved. And they could, work as small as their school system, or they're a little bit larger with their community, or something with the state at large. And so they each chose their pain point, and then they had to create a viable solution to the problem, something that could be readily applied right away. And they absolutely rose to the challenge, and they did not shy away from the pain points that they saw, such as the teacher shortage, the gang to prison pipeline, the medical issues, especially in rural areas with medical access. And gender discrimination in the schools. So they chose really big topics, and they created really fantastic solutions to those. And so, and they were able to use what they learned in class. We had a lot of collaboration and teamwork activities that they did, a lot of fun activities like building a spaghetti tower with dry spaghetti and marshmallows, things like that, that really just brought together a very special group of scholars. And honestly, I could not have asked for just an incredible group of scholars this first year. They just were able to work together and get to know each other. They felt like they had developed strong friendships, some of the strongest in their lives in just a week.
Wow.
And it was such a beautiful thing to see. And I've had a couple of emails from them since camp was over, explaining, or just wanting to say how much they love their experience, how they want to come back next year, and to me that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's so great, and I think that's what summer camp is really good for. It puts you outside of your comfort zone and you grow so much from it, and it's interesting to hear about, they're learning, they're engaged with the community, they're building those interpersonal skills. So it just sounds like a great experience, and I'm so glad it went well. And, first year, glad it went well, but hopefully it sticks around. So, as the director, what do you have planned for next year, and how would you like to see the program grow?
Well, we definitely want to focus on the quality of the program and not concern ourselves with getting too large, because of the topics that we are focusing on, because of what we're trying to accomplish in these scholars' lives. I think we do want to keep it on the smaller side numbers-wise. The scholars are also nominated by their schools, so this isn't just something where they can just sign up whenever. They have to be nominated by their schools, and it's based on character traits for the nomination, like maturity level, leadership, collaboration, and inquisitive nature, independence. Those are the qualities that we're looking for. We don't look at scores because we find that that's not indicative of what scholars are capable of, and we want that to not be a hindrance. We want them to fully explore their opportunities without those kinds of roadblocks. So
sure, yeah. Well, I think if you it seems like your focus is in the right place, and if you keep going with that and you learn throughout the years, I'm excited to see what it turns into. Sounds so great. And if anyone is interested in, coming next year, reach out to your counselors, let them know about this, and we want to have you. There's also information on the English department website. Find someone to email, reach out. We want to hear from you and get involved. If this sounds like something you'd like to join, just take that first step and it will work out. So thank you so much for joining me today, Abigail.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, great to have you on and hear about your work. And thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Vision. We'll see you next time.